Okay. If anyone's listening over the interwebs, that sound you hear is the buzzing of little insects. Got them. Anyway, let's go ahead and begin translating the Lesson 41 story, and then I'll pronounce definitively when your Lesson 41 test is. Okay. Probably Thursday. But if you do a really bad job in the in-class translation, we can have the test tomorrow. Shall we snake or shall we popsicle stick? I don't like the whole snaking thing because then Jake begins calculating, ooh, when's it going to get to me? I'm going to plan that sentence all ahead. Okay. So we have the popsicle sticks of justice. Sorry, that's the Latin 1 period 6 class. Oh, no, that's the period 1 class. Oh, there. And there magically floating on the top is Jake Pot. Unfortunately, I didn't pull from the top. So, Flaminia, would you read and translate the Latin, please? Yes. Yeah, it's the goal you're aiming for on the final exam. A. Go ahead. Excellent. I'm not a very nice person, and I assigned you the task of translating this cold. I would like you to not maybe translate it right away. And this is something that I'd encourage all of you to adopt, which is a strategy of dissecting the sentence first. When you look at the sentence, what seems to be the structure of it? Because as we get to longer and more complex sentences with 2 or 3 different clauses in them, kind of grouping words together is going to be important. How do you see things fitting together? Good. Yeah, that's good. That's a good insight that qui as a relative pronoun introduces a relative clause that goes all the way to venerunt. With that observation, there's a second reading and translation strategy to make, which is dependent upon what the antecedent of qui is. Yeah, it is colonis. And so with that second observation, there's the last one to do, well, not the last one necessarily, but a really important one to do is to not attempt to translate anything inside the relative clause until you've translated what's outside of it. Whoops, that was supposed to be a highlighter. Silly me. Didn't work, did it? So, not that I'm going to encourage you guys to bring a highlighter to your translation test tomorrow or Thursday, but rather to, when you get these longer and complex sentences like the ones you're going to see on the test and you see in the story, to do some bracketing of words, to do some ordering of ideas, and with that said, I bet. Well, let me just ask one more follow-up question. What is going to be your starting point now? Yeah, with no wisty. Okay. So that's a good starting point. The main verb, once you've identified it, often becomes a good starting point for the sentence. So go for it. Excellent. Okay. Um, and let me throw this open to other people because I don't want you, when it's not your turn, to lose interest and fall asleep, or doodle, which seems to be the process that some people are following. Okay. All right. Well, good. I appreciate that reassurance. So, how does multi fit in? Anyone else have um, a suspicion? Maxima? Yeah, it's a substantive, many things, neuter plural, and I take it as the direct object of noisty. So as you started it, perhaps you know, or perhaps you have learned many things. Almost. Colonis is not the place. Yes, it's good. Excellent. Very smoothly done. So perhaps you have learned many things, or perhaps you know many things about the settlers who came from Britain to America. That's a great translation. Okay? And maybe it's true if you're an 8th grader or a 9th grader. I don't know. Did you ever get that test back? The one about the American colonists and you're studying the Korean War? No, that doesn't sound right. Okay, all right, onwards. Magical popsicle stick. Are there any questions? All right, thank you, Flaminio. Vera is not here, so she can't translate. On the other hand, Rosa is here. I think it's good to read it because you will be seeing a recitation as part of your semester 2 final. And one of the things that I have underemphasized this year with you is pronunciation. So let's get an opportunity to hear the Latin. This one's a little tougher. Petiverunt. Okay. So one more time. Just the P word. Excellent. Okay. All right. And your translation was really nice. There's one room for a little tweak. The teram noam is singular, but if you go ahead and give a repeat. Excellent. Okay. All right. Questions in there? Woohoo. Strabo. Yes, please. Okay, work on your long I sounds on, one more time. No, long I makes a sound of E, right, multi, antecaserunt, reliqui postea, and then just finish it off from odd. Excellent, okay, very smooth. And translation. I'm gonna encourage you to kind of keep this semicolon on antecaserunt pretty hard and fast as a dividing line, not to cross over. Relook at the vocab meaning, the vocab list for the meaning of antecaserunt. That's right. That's good. Many, and what's implied is the word colonists or settlers. You don't need to translate it, but that's implied because multi is acting as a substantive. Many went ahead or went first or went earlier. Not quite. Okay. We're going to have, did you guys ever get Latin words confused with each other? Okay. So there's colonus, and down the road you guys are going to learn Colonia, settler, and settlement or colony. Okay. Like the Jamestown colony or the Roanoke colony. All right. You're going to get confused this set of words. Reliquus aum, an adjective that you learned a while ago that means remaining or rest of. And then there's the new vocab in this list. Okay. I'm not going to run through all the principal parts because I'm just that lazy, but relinquo through, what's the last one? Relictus. Okay. Is it a long I? Okay. And on the fourth principal part too? Second one, not the first one. Okay. Sometimes I'm not very awesome with macrons, and please correct me if I am not. Okay. All right. Now, here's the $50 question for you. Are these two words connected at all in meaning? Okay. Jake, what's your thought? They are. Too bad I don't have $50 to give you. Okay. All right. So here are a group of people. All of a sudden, a gigantic tidal wave comes and carries some of them away. Okay, this is a very bad drawing. Okay, the wave leaves behind 3 people, or 3 parts of people. Okay, the wave leaves behind relinquo 3 people. Guess what these 3 people are? They're the remaining people, the rest of the people. Okay, all right. And sorry for the terrible drawing, but when we have forms of the adjective, okay, reliqui, nominative plural of reliquus, it's going to be important to stretch and translate it as the rest. Okay, so many went ahead. The okay. And now I'm going to tell you, do not translate these words until they are the last words in the sentence. This is a lovely, perfect passive verb. So you have to keep it passive. Yes. Right. So the rest were transported afterwards. The land, or, and you're not going to like this, okay? I'm going to give you the full translation, echoing what Jake did, which was solid, translating petitum just as sought. So many went ahead. The rest afterwards were transported to the land which had been sought. In a couple of lessons, we're going to be learning about translating perfect passive participles with subordinate clauses. And I want you to realize that every once in a while, when you see a Latin p cubed or perfect passive participle like petitum, especially if it's not in the nominative case, its translation is going to sound a little weird if you just use the cookie cutter translation. Okay. I don't think many of you would be happy if I said on a regular basis, the rest were transported afterwards to the having been sought land, or to the sought land. You would say, what the heck does that mean? And in a couple lessons, we'll be learning to translate p cubed perfect passive participles with English subordinate clauses. It's going to be fun. All right, thank you. Let's see. Lucia. Good. I'm going to tweak it I encourage you to tweak it just a little bit with low key salties being plural. So they stood in, yeah. And just use your imagination for me or your knowledge. What tall places did the settlers stand on in the context of this sentence? Anyone? Ship masts. Okay. Yeah. So they stood in tall places, probably ship's masts, or maybe promontories or capes right on the coastline. And one more time on karate. Yeah, and gratefully watched or looked at the new land. Excellent. Good. Let's go ahead and push on. No, not here. Ignati. Good. I have a feeling on this that pueri, puelaique, romani, it cannot be genitive plural, which is going to affect how that translation needs to be altered. One other thing, we actually still haven't formally learned the word colonia, which means colony or settlement. So let's stick with the word for the people, colonists or settlers. So first instinct that I heard was to translate pueri puelaique as genitive. So they also learned about settlers of the boy and Roman girl. If it's genitive, it has to be singular. And I don't know exactly what settlers of a Roman boy and girl would be. That may be fleas. Sorry, that was terrible. Okay. Sorry to bug you with my bad sense of humor. Okay. Don't get all ticked off though. Okay. All right. So perhaps instead, there goes that buzzing sound again. Got it. Okay. Sorry, Charles. Make it nominative plural. What this is doing is changing subject from what we know about the settlement of America and what these people. So yeah, and I would translate day more as about or concerning, but that's the right idea. So also boys and Roman girls. If you wanted to, you could stretch Romani and make it describe the boys, but Romani takes its ending from Puelai. But also boys and Roman girls also learned, I've said that twice, about settlers. Okay. All right. They learned about Roman settlers who, well, ended up in all kinds of strange places. Onwards. Augusta. Well, it's always a choice when you see a/ob as to whether to translate it as by or from. What's usually the determining factor? Yeah, exactly. If there's a passive verb, and okay, yeah, excellent. So soldiers were transported by the Romans into Britain, and there they waged wars. Okay. Anybody happen to know roughly when um, the Romans invaded Britain, either for the first or the successful time? Just as a point of historical curiosity. It was Julius Caesar launched the first invasion in 55 BC. It was unsuccessful. He came back in 54 BC for a slightly more successful invasion, but rebellions in Gaul kept him from staying there. And so he withdrew his troops, and it wasn't until about 100 years later, in 43 AD, that the Roman Emperor Claudius staged the invasion of Britain. Okay, the successful invasion of Britain. There were many rebellions subsequently, um, and there were always trouble from the painted men who lived in the far north of the island. The Picts, which oddly enough is a P cubed from the verb meaning paint. So pingo, pingere, pinxi, pictus. So what are Picti or the Picts? Yeah, they're the painted people. And they body painted themselves with blue and other plant-based dyes. And the Romans called them the painted people and ended up fighting them for quite some time until they chose to build a wall to keep them out. But I'm getting off topic. Maxime, time for you to translate. Without the T, weos can't be lives. Yes. Okay. So they made walls and and even fortified or built roads. Okay. Good. All right. Tom through Dederant. Let's see. Jacobe. I'm going to suggest you read the Latin. And there are two reasons, again, for me to encourage you guys to do that. Number one, practice pronunciation. Number two, on longer sentences, guess what reading the Latin sort of allows you to begin doing? Dividing it into chunks, beginning to think about, am I just going to start at the beginning and run all the way to the end, or do I need to divide it into clauses and create an order of attack? Not that we want to attack the sentence or excellent. Good. All right. So do you have a sense of structure that makes sense to you? Okay. Traduco is a tough word to translate because in English it requires, at least according to the textbook, two words to lead across. And super quickly, kolonos is the direct object of the dukes part of traduxerant. So it's kind of a ping pong strategy. Tom, dukes, kolonos, tra. I mean, in terms of the how you translate traducere. In English, you pretty much have to break it into two words and separate them. Yes. Sorry for the long silence. And gave. I'm glad you reached all the way to Dederant. Where are you going next? Okay, we can certainly do that. Yes, thank you. Hang on just a second. Curse those coincidentally spelled and sounded and related words because they get very hard to differentiate. Captivus means a prisoner, a captive, someone who's taken as a prisoner of war. In terms of part of speech, captivos or captivus in the nominative is a noun. Super quickly, everyone, what's coptos? It's a p cubed, okay, or a triple p if you must. Although I know perfect passive participle is a mouthful, okay, I prefer p cubed anyway. So it's a perfect passive participle. You guys remember the cookie cutter translation, plain old captured or the longer form having been captured. Okay. Let's consider using captured, but let's not. Let's use a subordinate clause. In other words, previewing what we're going to be learning soon. Let's try a relative clause. And I know you guys will say, but Mr. Abel, there's no relative pronoun in there. On the other hand, you guys are going to start encountering sentences that have 3 p cubes in them, and it's such a long sentence that the only way to keep sense of it before you pass out and lapse into a coma because of exhaustion as you're translating is to break it up into manageable chunks using a relative clause. Now, you may not think that your relatives are particularly manageable, okay, if they're wild animals like my brothers, okay? Fields which had been captured. Excellent. And I know some of you will say, that's too many words. My wrist is going to fall off from writing. I say, when I see it flopping on the floor, I'll believe it. Speaking of flopping, don't let your head flop to one side. Okay? And Nick, try to stay awake also. All right. Yep. There's one more word that we need to translate. I have an instinct that colonies is not an ablative of means. There's no a/ob. Oh, so you view it as dative, and that's good, okay? It's dative as the indirect object of dederant. And I do want to notice something that the textbook has tried to ingrain upon you in the past, and for kind of good reason. In sentences where there is an indirect object, the indirect object, whoops, let me change color, normally comes before the direct objects. That's common in Latin sentences. It's common in English sentences. If I gave Charles ice cream, The indirect object would be Charles, okay, and he would precede the ice cream. Now, we can be flexible, as Jake, you did, in using the prepositional phrase to the settlers, and that's just fine. Okay. Long sentence, I know the translation of it is even longer, but in the long run, it's going to provide, using a relative pronoun, relative clause down the road, is going to provide a better structure for your longer Latin sentences when they come into English. All right, good. Let's see. Question? Luki is eager to translate. Let's see if the popsicle stick of destiny. Oh, Athena. There's a lot more in this sentence than I've heard so far. Read the Latin. It's going to get the Latin in your head first thing. So let's make it a practice from here to the end of the semester. Even if I say we don't have time, we do have time. It just means you have more homework. Just okay. As you read the Latin, do you gain a sense of how to group words together? So tell me what I should put parentheses or brackets or some other type of marking about. Excellent. Very, very good. Okay. A lot of people along the way don't see, and this is really important, they don't see the ice cream sandwich effect. I mentioned ice cream earlier. Sounds yummy. The ice cream sandwich effect that really starts to happen a lot with perfect passive participles. Okay, one wafer of the sandwich is a noun, kolonos here, as the object of the preposition pair. Okay, what's the ice cream? It's the prepositional phrase in Britannia. Okay, what is the other wafer that forms the delicious ice cream sandwich? Traductos. Okay, I want you guys to start seeing that when we encounter p cubes, and this is the final sort of growth spurt intellectually that this Latin 2 class needs to have, is around perfect passive participles. Yeah, we're going to do more with the third declension, but that's easy peasy compared to learning how to recognize p cubes, see that they become part of really expansive, delicious ice cream sandwiches. Sometimes they have 3 layers of ice cream inside. Not just a vanilla prepositional phrase, but they might also have a strawberry ablative of personal agent accompanied by a chocolate adverb. Neapolitan ice cream, oh, that is good stuff. Anyway, that ice cream sandwich is going to require you to, really going to require you guys to start translating them with subordinate clauses. Now, Joey, you have a question? Not yet. Okay. All right. Other things that hang together. One more time. Yep. And I dare say I'm going to extend it a bit further. And I'm leaping in here and just extending it to Romani. You're going to say Britannia has the same ending, many of you. And you're right. But, okay, I want you guys to notice how word order tends to work in Latin, where an adjective like Roman follows the noun that it describes. It doesn't come in front of the noun that it describes most of the time. And Britanniae as a noun, it doesn't really work since there's no conjunction in front of it to take it as being in the same case as lingua latina and leges romani. So that said, I've said too much probably. Do you want to start? Indeed, yes. I'm gonna pull a quick turn on this. How you're translating the sentence. Don't translate traductos, the p cubed, until you translate kolonos, the noun that it describes. And when we do, okay, and this is a further twist, I want you guys to use a relative clause. Start using relative clauses to translate long p cubes. So start with pair. You don't know the word colony yet. Okay. Now, when you bite into an ice cream sandwich, guys, and I know this is a stupid analogy, but bear with me. In fact, maybe you guys should start bringing ice cream sandwiches to class so we can demonstrate it. Sounds good to me. Or Oreo cookies, because you have the wafers, then you have the creamy filling. What do your teeth touch first? The wafers, okay? Unless you're one of those barbarians who rips the Oreo apart and says, I'm going to eat your insides. Okay, sorry. Don't mean to share my Oreo cookie rituals with you all. Okay? Okay. Sorry, well, we just translated about about Polyphemus and the Cyclops, and yeah, okay. Anyway, all right. So my point is, and there's a real point to that little bit of madness a moment ago. Don't translate the filling of a noun participle phrase until you translate the noun and the participle. Start with the noun, go to the participle. I really want to encourage you to use a relative clause. Okay, so the through colonists who, yeah, I'm going to tweak it just a little bit. You'll get more instruction on why it becomes who had been led across. Exactly. Joey, what's wrong with you? Oh, nothing that an ice cream sandwich wouldn't fix. Or an Oreo. Or me eating your insides. Ah, just kidding. Okay. Through colonists who have been led across into Britain, comma, just as you're saying this, it's awesome. Now datai sunt. There's our verb finally. Go dara dedidatos. Excellent. Yes, we're given to Britain. All right. Can I give you my home remedy for hiccups? Okay. Go to the drinking fountain, bend over, fill your mouth with water. Okay, in the hallway, on your passing period. Then stand up, expel all the air from your lungs through your nose, and then don't swallow until you've bent over and your head is as far beneath your knees as you can get it. And then swallow. It works. No, you swallow upside down. And it worked. Okay. All right. Now, we're kind of reaching a stopping point, so I'm going to stop the recording.